How's it going, YouTube? 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 Hello there. Hi there. Why, hello there. Hello there. Hi there. Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to my channel.
Hello, Internet. I've uploaded a YouTube video on this very channel every single Sunday for 10 years. That's 523 Sundays, 523 videos. Well, it's actually more like 550, as you know, I've uploaded the odd Friday and Thursday every once in a while. And one of the most fascinating changes I'll be sharing in this video is my YouTube demographics. Every 2 years on YouTube feels like 10 years in real life. Everything just changes really fast. You could find a YouTuber like myself in 2012 and go, oh, he's pretty funny, subscribe. But maybe I'm just not your cup of tea in 2014, and you move on. Compound this across millions of viewers across 10 years of weekly uploads, and you've got a really interesting shift in viewers that I'll be sharing with you. But it isn't just the shift in viewers and the YouTube lore that's changed in 10 years. I have. You have. Everyone has changed. Think about what you were doing in 2014. Think about what your thoughts were, what you believed in. Now think about how that contrasts to what you believe in today in 2024 or whenever you are watching this. You're not the same person, and neither am I. But luckily for me, I've actually documented myself over the last 10 years, and I just think it's going to be a really fascinating experience to look through and see how I changed as a person, how YouTube in general changed year by year, what videos stood out to me as ones that were the most impactful with my community year by year. And without further ado, let's just set the scene. You see, I'm not part of the first generation of YouTubers, but rather the second. I had watched the first generation of vloggers and was like, oh, I can do that. I made videos while in college, and though most are private at this point for good reason, I also daily vlogged for 400 days straight on my second channel. Though it's also private, yet again, good reason. It was almost like, it very much was, a very personal diary. I was basically saying anything that came to my head about what I was doing in life. I would bring up people's names that I knew in person and never provide any context. Be like, oh yeah, John is coming over today. Nobody knows who John is, but I did, because it was almost like these were just journal entries. It was a video blog of my life that I was sharing online. But I didn't just have the main channel and then the vlogging channel. Of course, I also had a music covers channel, a ukulele tutorial channel, a games channel, a books channel. Case in point, I was a YouTuber. Also, back then, it was a lot more difficult to, become a YouTube partner and make money from making videos. It was really just a hobby for people that didn't really have any friends. So I just remember how proud I was after spending so much of my college time sitting, thinking of videos and coming up with things, and then finally, someone at YouTube approved me to be accepted into the partner program, and then it felt official. I was officially a YouTuber. I carried on making videos when I could about what I wanted to at the moment, leading into when I moved to the UK to get my master's degree. Well, I did end up getting my degree in the end. I had to feign explosive diarrhea to pass a course to graduate, but who among us hasn't spewed metaphorical shit to get their degree? Especially considering, well, I'm not really in the field of actuarial science at the moment, am I? You see, by 2014, I'd been making videos regularly for 3 to 4 years, but without any sort of consistent pattern. In fact, most of the days I'd actually upload would be on a Monday, but then I'd miss for like 2-3 weeks because I was busy, I was studying, I had 2 different jobs at the same time. It was a bit difficult. It was always whenever I managed to, in between working the jobs I had and studying at university. There was a point I do distinctly remember deciding to force myself to upload a video every Sunday. I don't know why it was Sunday, just felt like that was the day that every other YouTuber was uploading on. I was like, oh, if everyone's on YouTube, good time to upload. I just found the more that I created, the more ideas that I'd have. And I very much did enjoy making videos. I still do, but I also did. A lot of these initial videos were full of puns. I spoke at least twice as fast as I do now, all right? So people that say I speak fast, you haven't even watched the older videos yet, okay? I'd actually been uploading storytime videos since well before 2014, and some of my first videos to gain traction would have been little stories that I told while living in my parents' basement in 2010. You gotta start somewhere. That being said, 2014 was an incredibly difficult and stressful year. Not just because it was my first decision to start making weekly videos. No, that wasn't even half of it. The main stuff was, one, I was actually meant to be deported. I ended up getting my first ever work visa to stay in the UK within 2 days of needing to leave the country. So that's some stressful life stuff aside, I managed to get the visa and stay, but then the year it just got a lot worse. I think any creator that was around in 2014 would probably refer to 2014 as the dark year. That was a year when there were just so many YouTube scandals with YouTubers being really shitty, to put it really, really mildly. A lot of those YouTubers involved were really massive and were watched by lots of people in the community, myself included, and some of those as well were actually friends of mine at the time, which made things incredibly uncomfortable. And one of the first videos that, weirdly enough, is a catalyst for my channel was where I ended up just going out into the middle of woods in Ascot and just talking about the situation because I was so incredibly hurt and upset by it. You know, a close friend of mine at the time had done some bad things and I was so upset about it. And weirdly enough, like I said, that is one of the videos that people ended up watching, and it was so raw. I feel like YouTube back in the day was so raw. I did treat everything much more like some sort of personal diary. It would just be like, well, I have to make a video this week, and this is what's happening, and that's what I need to share. But to end 2014 on a positive note, that was actually the year I was involved in YouTube Rewind. So, bit of a bias, I would say it was the best YouTube Rewind, because I was in it. Somehow, I was in this production from the actual, like, website YouTube. I was being acknowledged, and I got to dress up in all blue and go into a classroom, and all the other big YouTubers are there, and it felt so exciting to be involved in such a big production. And that is still, I guess, a highlight of my old school YouTube career and really made me feel like, all right, I'm doing the right thing. I just got to keep making videos, and one day I'll be the big YouTuber that, you know, people look up to. I'm still waiting. One day I'll hit the 1 million subscribers, but you know, numbers don't matter. But the number that does matter, the numbers in my analytics. Now, looking at my analytics from 2014 is really fascinating because, as you can see here, I had about a 72% female demographic, 28% male, and the audience skewed hugely into the younger demographic. So 27% of my viewers were under the age of 18, and then the majority was 18 to 24, and then following on from there. The majority of my audience still came from Americans, though the UK bit of the audience had just about caught up, and overall, I think after I started making weekly videos, rather than getting about 12,000 subscribers in an entire year, this year I ended up getting 40,000, which is just huge. It's like 3 times the amount. Maths. 2015 though, that was a huge, huge year for my channel. In fact, I think a lot of you that still watch to this day probably started watching me in 2015, because 2015 is the year I moved into a little flat in Peckham with my friend Dodie, and we called it the Dovin Flat. There was a point in time where any items seen in the background of any of our videos in the Dovin Flat would result in somehow there'd be a Twitter account run by a fan for that appliance. There would be like the Dovin tea towels, the Dovin blender, the Dovin microwave. There was Dovin everything. It was a fun time to be online, and it was just so cool. I really appreciate, if any of you are still around since then, it was a really fun time. And one of my favorite parts about living with Dodie and making all those videos back in the day was just telling stupid puns in a YouTube video and then hearing her complain loudly through the walls as she gets the pun and sadly hates the pun, you know? I'm underappreciated for my time. 2015 was also the year of some of my most important videos. Biggest video this year in terms of impact was probably the video I made on my sexuality. It's one of the videos that still gets brought up in certain subreddits as having a huge influence on people understanding themselves better. Looking back now, I find this video and most that I uploaded in 2015 to be just so intensely, authentically personal, which I guess is a big reason why some viewers were drawn to my channel during this time. I very much was the content. I was basically making content about myself, and you know, that is good for a bit, but I don't know, maybe that's just something that I was much more comfortable doing when I was younger. I still imbue myself in my content these days, but not quite to the level of 2015. Now, this was also the year that I fell into a cactus on a hike of the Grand Canyon and uploaded a storytime video about it. Cactuses would become a huge part of my branding going forward, and then I would stumble into what would then become a huge part of my channel to this day, my British versus American series. I always found the conversations I had with friends at pubs about little interesting differences so fun. I was like, why don't I just, I don't know, record a video with one of you and we'll just talk about it on my bed. That's just what YouTube was like back in the day. And you know what? The videos absolutely popped off. I remember people at one point, it was like, what, 2017, 2018, how many things can you possibly talk about British versus American? And I was like, I don't know. As soon as something comes up that's interesting, I'm like, oh, that'd be fun. Let me talk about it on camera, because these things still come up. Even the video I uploaded last week where me and my friend Matt just talked about ice creams, there was all these interesting differences, and that's just the stuff that gets me going. And that's why I have a YouTube channel. I really loved that I could use these British versus American videos as an excuse to get a friend on to just talk about something in a low maintenance way. Making content was a lot easier back then. There was a lot less pressure. Now, a lot of that pressure does come down to self-induced pressure, but still pressure nonetheless. All in all, 2015, it was a good year. 2015, also massive year for my analytics. I mean, plus 144,000 subscribers in a year. That's insane, considering the year before was 40,000. This was really when I felt like I was finding my own on YouTube, which was quite nice. In terms of the context with the actual YouTube community, I find that back in the day, I remember being incredibly blessed, feeling blessed that I didn't have a very large majority male audience, because at least in 2015 time, I felt like the audiences that were very heavily male-centric usually left the worst types of comments. Those are usually the mean comments. But in this year, my UK audience did actually surpass the Americans watching my videos. It was a nice even split though, so when I made a British versus American video, it was like, oh cool, I had, you know, audience members from each side being like, oh yeah, that's how it was like for me, or oh, that's not how it was like for me. It was kind of nice back in the day, doing that type of thing. But now it's time I roll on to the next year. 2016, the end of the Dovin Flat, and the beginning of the Lonely Flat. That's actually what I'd called it. But I only lived there for 5 months, and then I moved on to the Meme Mansion. This was an era in my life where I lived with my friends Luke, Connie, and Ellen for a whole year, but so much happened during this year. When I think about it, it honestly feels like 3 years. Also, all 3 of these friends I was living with, I literally had met from the internet, from YouTube. So it was just so incredibly cool to be able to like live with people that I met online. There was still like such a vibe about like the internet and oh, it's so cool. I can actually make friends with people that like me. Yeah. This was the year I released my first YouTuber Valentine's Day video, which was inspired by Luke's video from a couple years back. And my British versus American series was really starting to take off as I would just invite any friend over to chat about some interesting differences that I'd find. Now, in terms of like my fandom or like my audience fervor, I would say 2016, 2017 is definitely where it peaked. I was being flown out to conventions in Florida and California every year to talk on panels about YouTube and meet viewers. And this was a time where if I stepped out of my hotel, there'd be people screaming my name and chasing after me. It feels like a bizarre past life, is how I've described it to my girlfriend, that I could point my vlogging camera at a group of people and they would all cheer and they'd be in one of my videos, hooray! It was obviously such an insane ego boost to have, you know, people screaming your name, especially for someone who's just posting videos like Boy Scouts, British versus American, or Pun Battle, School Assemblies. But it was all just really exciting. When I would get recognized in the street, the reaction was just as extreme. I mean, if you just contrast that with this one time I was recognized in Sheffield in 2021, I'm at the top of a hill that goes down and up, and a guy all the way on the other side goes, "Are you Evan Edinger?" And I go, "Yes?" And he just yelled, "What you doing here?" So like, you know, contrasting audience fervor. Also, what was I doing in Sheffield? Getting bloody COVID is what I was doing. But back to 2016, myself and other YouTuber friends at the time were all really self-aware about this whole thing about the audience. I feel like most of my friends knew this wasn't how life is meant to be or how it's going to be forever. You know, the fact that you couldn't tweet or post an image in a restaurant unless you were out of the restaurant, otherwise people would show up looking for you to see if you're in the specific restaurant in the specific town that they're in. I remember at one point, my friend Birdie was joking with all of us in the green room saying, "All right, lads, who needs a bit of a good ego recharge? Let's go back out there and love our fans." Something like that. It was, I remember that specifically because of just how in the moment that felt. In 2016, the most impactful video I probably uploaded was the video about my father passing. This, yet again, was a situation where I upload a video every Sunday. And, well, this Sunday, I was upset. And I wanted to talk about that. I mean, it felt weird to talk about anything else, and I did really try and crack on right after that, but I did get some therapy afterwards, which was really, really helpful. But at times like this, when I would share a video like that is, you know, incredibly personal, I never expect all of the people to really, really vibe with it. Oh, I vibed with your dad dying. Jesus. But it's just the way that I was able to express myself in this and do this very raw, emotional video about the nuance of losing a parent that you don't necessarily understand your relationship with. It really did hit a lot of people in a way that I wasn't expecting. And a lot of fans would actually come up to me a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line at an event and say, "Oh, Evan, I really appreciate that video you uploaded about your dad dying," which, you know, it's not their fault, but what they're inherently doing is just reopening a wound for me. I'll be like, "Hey, I'm having a nice day at this YouTube convention." Someone's like, "Hey, remember your dad died?" And I'm like, glad that helped you, you know? you just gotta laugh at some of this stuff. The first convention I'd gone to after my father passing was one of the roughest though, just because the amount of people that would bring it up and be like, thanks for making that video. And I'm like, thanks for reminding me. But also, when I think about it, my YouTube career, my longevity on this platform at this point really feels like a split in two different eras, the era before my father passing and the era after, because it did have that as well as some other events that transpired, really changed who I was as a person, changed the way that I thought about what I'm doing in life. You know, death does that to people, really knocks you in the head like, hey, by the way, it's all gonna end one day. Anyway, that's pretty dark. The analytics though, not so bad. Dad dying didn't kill the channel. Yeah, sorry, dark humor. Anyway, so still got that like 3/4 split with female audience, but and similar split with the UK, US, and the age demographics here. Yeah, anyway, let's move on. 2017. Also, I hope you appreciate that changing all the angles based on how I felt that type of shot would represent the year of upload. Anyway, next year. Paint me like one of your 2017 girls. I don't even know what that means. But 2017 was a bit of a plateau for me. Like I said, this was really the year where I was transitioning a lot more. I was still plodding along with my standard YouTube formats. I tried out a new series called Spill the Tea, which was really long form content. I just wanted an easy way to invite a friend around and just have a chat about something, sort of like a quasi podcast in a way. But at the time, these videos really didn't pop off with my audience. You see, back in the day, the YouTube algorithm really didn't want you to upload many videos over 5 minutes. Most audiences weren't really interested in videos over 10 minutes. Like, what are you crazy? So I was a bit ahead of the curve by accident, but I wanted to upload longer videos, just chatting with a friend about a topic that we both were interested in. So I did it anyway, despite my audiences not really being into it. It wasn't until the next year YouTube actually changed their algorithm to favor longer content, so I was accidentally ahead of the curve. You see, a YouTube video over 10 minutes long now would allow YouTube to add a mid-roll ad in between. Well, nowadays it's been lowered to 8 minutes, but more ads equals more money for YouTube, and so their algorithm would definitely push longer videos as of 2017 and 2018. But for some added context, 2017 was also the big year of the YouTube adpocalypse. Long story short, some articles came out about extremist videos found on the platform that had ads running on them, coupled with events like Logan Paul filming a dead body in Japan for views, and you got the biggest YouTuber on the platform at the time, PewDiePie, back-to-back controversies, so advertisers essentially boycotted YouTube, and therefore there wasn't as much revenue going around, and a lot of YouTubers did suffer a huge drop in revenue, myself included. But luckily, at this time, I was still working a full-time job because I had to stay in the country. My visa status meant I couldn't just be an influencer, creator, YouTuber. No, I don't think Her Royal Highness at the time was like, yeah, let's let in YouTubers. No. So basically, I had to work different marketing jobs. At this point, I ended up getting a job to work 2 days a week on my exceptional talent visa, and it managed to allow me to have more time to invest into YouTube. And in the end, I ended up making enough during 2017 from YouTube alone to actually support myself living in London, which was quite nice. But the biggest thing that happened to me in 2017 was another big move. At this point, I moved pretty much every year. It was stressful, but it was just kind of part of my adult life. My time at Me Mansion had come to a close, and Luke and I then moved in with a couple friends to a big old house in Chiswick. We called it the Creator Castle because I'm just really bad at coming up with names, I guess. Oh, I've just noticed I match my bed. And here are my 2017 analytics. Just ever so slight changes. Still the standard amount of female to male split, but slightly older audiences and slightly more Brits than Americans watching this time around. But I'm thirsty. I'm gonna go get a drink. Ah, that's better. As mentioned before, 2018 was probably the year you would have noticed the biggest change on your YouTube homepage based on the videos that YouTube was serving you up. There's so much in 2018 that it's kind of hard for me to unpack. One, it was the year I uploaded my biggest and final YouTuber Valentine's Day video, which I'm still really happy worked out, and I got to have so many great YouTubers involved with. Big shout out to Jane Animations, Tomska, and a lot of my friends and other YouTubers who wouldn't normally make this style video that joined in on me, so thank you very much. And then right after that, I made my first ever video about how I'd learned German with Duolingo, and lots of follow-ups and a lot of fun videos about the German language, how I wound up at TaniCon, and well, it was the first time I actually moved to Germany. I think as a viewer, what made that so special is that I've been talking about it in videos for months and months and months, like, oh, I'd love to go to Germany at some point. That would be nice, wouldn't it? That would really help my language learning journey. And then I did it. I bloody well did it. And you know what? It's still one of the biggest and best decisions I've ever made for myself, as so much of that trip was based on self-improvement. And yeah, 10 out of 10. If you get a chance to live in a different country for a month or two, absolutely go for it. Best decision of my life. So this year was also the year that I really started switching from purely entertaining videos to edutainment, where you're getting a bit of information as well. And as a result of changes in both my style and changes in the algorithm, you can finally see an actual big change in my analytics. Like I said, a lot went down during 2018. I'd always had about a 75% female audience, but in 2018 that lead slipped significantly. Also due to my German content, Germany popped up as the country with the third most viewers on my YouTube channel, a position they have never once left from, so vielen Dank. Now 2019, in my opinion, marks the end of the vlogger era and the beginning of the content creator era. And you can really tell that from the content that I was producing and how it performed. For instance, videos that traditionally performed really well on my channel, like storytime videos, underperformed greatly, whereas videos with a more factual element to them, like the cost of British citizenship, performed really well with my audience. My British versus American series, which traditionally was way more full of anecdotal stories, had a lot more information that a viewer could walk away from feeling like they've learned something. Videos about like TV ads and TV and other things about citizenship and stuff did really well. Also, 2019 was actually the year I uploaded my most viral and most viewed video of all time, which is quite ironic considering I remember the day I was uploading it, texting my then girlfriend saying, don't really know what I'm doing on YouTube these days, just because I just feel like I'm uploading things I'm interested in, but who the heck is going to want to watch a man take a maths test for 40 minutes? Well, turns out everyone. That video where I took a maths GCSE was like crack to the algorithm. I had 5,000 people watching live as I premiered the video, which is weird considering that 5,000 views within the first 2 hours would be pretty cool for me. So to have that, I was like, this must be a glitch. But no, the video just exploded. Millions of views. I remember going to the YouTube creator space in London with my friend Sammy, who's going there with a lot more famous people in terms of on YouTube than I am, and yet I was the only person from his experience that got recognized by the receptionist who came up to me and went, oh my God, you're the guy that took the tests. And I was like, yeah, I took a test. And she was like, please take a test from my country. And I was like, to be honest, there is some sort of timeline out there in which I just started taking more tests. I mean, the views were there, the finances were there, but I only made that video and subsequent test videos because I was really interested in that specific region. Like, oh, how is that? There are some I've planned for the future, but yet again, it's actually quite stressful to take a test. Do you remember taking them? How about taking them for fun, except on camera with a time span and also trying to be entertaining? Oh boy. Either way, no regrets, really good. 2019 was also a huge year for change in my channel. Reason being, I uploaded a video or two with my friend Jay Foreman about TV and TV ads in the UK and the US, and I was just really embarrassed about the quality of the videos. Maybe it's because I was like, oh, he makes really good videos. I hope mine's good. And I didn't know why mine was bad. The autofocus kept messing around and I didn't know why. My jump cuts might have been a bit more jarring to his audience. And there were a lot of constructive comments that were left that I did take to heart. And the issue was I didn't know how or why things were going wrong or how I could improve. And so I spent 2019 buying a new camera and learning it religiously. I began to really pour my heart and soul into learning the camera, lighting, microphone, sound, production, just so I could feel like I knew what I was doing. So if something did go wrong, I could fix it, I knew how. And yeah, the videos I made in 2019 after this period did have a bit of issues, but that's because I was learning a new camera from the beginning. I started shooting flat, so I had to color grade. But now I'm so proud of the videos that I make, the quality and everything. And even at the end of the day, you might not like the content. Well, the quality's there. Obviously, content's important. But if we look at the stats of my channel, the analytics, you can really see this huge change as well. What used to be a very clear 50-50 split between Brits and Americans watching my videos was now heavily skewing towards Brits. And I think that just comes down to the fact that I was really assimilating into Britain and I was really learning a lot more about Britain. And so my videos were about Britain. And a lot of Americans weren't necessarily interested in that. That makes sense. However, massive jump in male audience. What was 25% in the year before was now 40% male audience. Now, when it comes to the next year, well, yeah, I think we all know how 2020 went. For myself, I spent my time feeling powerless in lockdown, unable to do anything. But the one thing that I could control was my YouTube channel. Luckily, I was able to work from home and make YouTube videos, and so I really spent so much more time learning about lighting, learning about sound and post-production, color grading, just really learning as much as I possibly could. And I also started writing more of my videos, taking way more time. You see, one of the things you might not have realized is so much of my channel and its growth and its style was based on having a guest with me sit and chat about a topic. But in 2020, because of lockdown, that couldn't happen anymore. I no longer could have any friends over. The content that I made had to change. I had to be the only one doing it. I had to control both sides. And so I was just so concerned that this would be the death of my YouTube channel, because I just felt like that's what my channel was. Two people talking about a topic from different sides of the spectrum. However, everything ended up working out okay. I pivoted well. I presented both sides of the topic that I wanted to talk about, and some of my most impactful videos from this year show that I really wanted to come off as more than just the vlogger next door, but as someone who maybe takes this a bit too seriously. I had sketches and songs and loads of information with source stuff in my video on double taxation in the US and the UK, on tipping culture in the US, and those still are two of my favorite videos that I've ever made due to just how much time and effort I put into them, and I'm very, very proud of those videos that came out of 2020. Also, a big thing that came out of 2020 though was my Reddit videos. That's when I was like, what else can I do during this time? Well, I love Reddit. I've been using it since high school. Why not make some videos on Reddit things I'm interested in? And those absolutely popped off, exploded, which I think definitely helped get my audience that much closer to a 50-50 split between males and females. Now, whereas lockdown forced me to change my content from having to remove guests from the equation, it also forced me to completely rethink what I was doing on my travel channel. Obviously, the travel channel couldn't go on that much longer, but for all this time, I had been traveling to this place and this place. I would get tourism boards sending me out to Hawaii, or to Hainan, or to Bahrain, and all these other interesting places. I would vlog my journey, and it was really lovely, and I really, really, really loved travel vlogging. However, as soon as 2020 happened, the channel essentially stopped. I couldn't really do that. I tried just doing vlogs from this is what I'm doing at the moment, and 2020, we're in lockdown. However, ever since then, the channel's never really climbed back from its heights of travel content. I do travel content still. I just uploaded a vlog from Porto there, but the audience didn't have time to adapt to changes, and it's just a different world these days. That, and like I said, 2019 really was the end of the vlogging era. So me continuing to vlog to this day on my second channel is kind of like just really, really trying to swim upstream. But it's also because I still really enjoy the medium. I enjoy vlogging and sharing my travels, so I'll probably continue to do it despite the fact that algorithmically I'm doomed. Hypothetically, I could repurpose the content and do something like, here's the best things to do in this country and this, but then it becomes way more like content and less like a honest video blog, which is kind of still what I want to do there. So sometimes if it feels too much like work, I'd rather just do the things that I enjoy doing. And so for now, my second channel is still a hobby. A final thing to note about 2020's content changes was I also began uploading 2 times a week. This was helped by the fact that my friend Phoenix, who lived with me, was like, I can't work. And I was like, you can work for me. So he edited my community videos, and it was a really fun time. But even with an editor, making 2 videos a week with all these stipulations that I have about the color grading and the sound and all that, it was a lot of effort. I'd love to be able to make 2 videos a week again, but man, it is just really time consuming. Not to be like, wah, 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 but making videos the way that I like to make them is time consuming as a thing. But no regrets, because of all the new eyes on my content, from the Reddit videos doing well, from my new produced sketches, from the community videos, my analytics really exploded. We're now getting so much closer to that 50-50 split of male and female. Younger demographics weren't really as interested in more of my adult topics, and the Brits are yet again just really killing it with watching my content. So cheers, mate. That being said, at one point the lockdown stopped, and it was time to move on to the next year. 2021. Make puns, not war. Some of you have been like, what is that? That's a nice little poster. Yes, actually, this is part of my old merch. You see, imagine you had to wear the same clothes you wore when you were a teenager. You had to speak the same. You had to know the same amount of information. You'd say, well, I don't want to do that. That's silly. Well, that's kind of what it was like for me to be a YouTuber for such a long period of time. Because a lot of my merch, like my posters, my t-shirts, my wristbands, I had all the standard YouTube merch that you had in the 2010s. it didn't represent me anymore. It also didn't represent the demographic that I had slowly come to have. You see, back in the day, I'd go to Summer in the City, the London YouTube event, and I would sell my merch like hotcakes because I had a younger demographic that was really interested in that. And that's not a negative thing. In fact, when I was in my early 20s, I'd go to YouTube events and I'd buy YouTube merch for all the YouTubers that I liked. I loved being able to show, like, I like this YouTuber. Anyone like YouTube? I like this guy too. You know, that was a cool thing. But then as I became more of an adult, I stopped being into that as much. And instead, I actually started skewing towards, oh, I really like that this YouTuber made something that really doesn't have to do with him. It's not like just name or face, though I've never really done that. And so I went from selling merch like this to then every once in a while having a limited run of photographic prints. And I just wanted to put this in the video because even though my video announcing I was getting rid of merch and selling photographic prints was one of my worst performers of 2021 actually, the fact that after 24 hours of uploading that video, one of my prints, Lunar Cycle, sold out was so ridiculously encouraging. The fact that I had very bad imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't know if anyone would be interested in my photographic prints. Does it look like I do photography content on this channel? No. Like, why would you even trust that it's good? Well, you did. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone that did support those prints. And if you're like, well, where are the prints now? Logistically, it's just not feasible for me to keep selling them all the time. It's because I really want to have my hand in every single pot. Another big element of 2021 for me was the fact that I got my British citizenship and I'd made a video showing the whole journey to get there, including my ceremony, and everyone that just felt like they were along for the journey the whole time. And it was like, oh my God, you finally did it. And it was just a really satisfying time. That being said, when I asked in my community tab the other day what the most impactful video I've ever made of all time was, most of you actually responded with my video I uploaded in September of 2021, which was called Goodbye Chiswick. And that was because finally, after living in this flat in Chiswick with my friends for 4 years, it was time for us to move. The landlord was going to be selling the property, and it just really hurt because I had really put roots down there. I felt like I really loved the area and I loved everything about it, and the fact that I couldn't live there anymore because I wanted to buy a flat, but Chiswick is way too expensive for me to afford. And so in my mind, what I thought was, well, if I can't live here anymore, the least I can do is a proverbial carving of my name into a tree online, saying Evan was here, a video where I detail all the things I love about Chiswick and all the things I'm gonna miss. And it was very emotional, and every time I rewatch it, I do still cry. So it was a big, big time for me, especially because after that video, well, I had nowhere to live for 4 or 5 months. This was probably one of the most stressful times of my life, lowest mental health. I was bouncing around Airbnbs, Liverpool and London, and I was still making videos every single Sunday in a different location with 90% of my stuff being in storage. And Lord, that was just not nice. The mortgage process in the UK is not good. However, finally, very end of the year, I did manage to secure a flat, this flat right here, and I don't know if I'll experience such a high in the next 3 years as I did when I managed to get this place. And one final really personal bit of 2021 for me was that I finally bagged a girlfriend, you know, just bagged her up at the Sainsbury's. She was actually probably an M&S one, to be honest. However, that's not just any girlfriend. She was an M&S girlfriend. That was really nice, considering that I feel like a lot of my personal content that I'd made for the last 6, 7, 8 years was very much skewing towards the truth, which was I really felt unlovable. I know that sounds really lame, but I just always felt like there was something really broken in me that made it so that I was always going to be single. There was just something weird about me that made me, you know, unlikable. But turns out that was wrong, or maybe I've just successfully tricked her into staying with me for so long. Now, if we look at the analytics for my YouTube channel, quite interestingly, this is finally when the male demographic is actually more than the female demographic, just by a bit, but wow. Fascinating. But now let's move on to the next year where I finally set up my studio. 2022 was the year I started building out my flat. Wait, let me switch microphone. There we go. I made this space my own. This room was dedicated to making videos. I edit over there. I'm able to shoot in different locations here. I also practice piano. Whereas before, in every flat I've had, you know, I had one small space, my bedroom. And so I sat on my bed, I did the standard vlogger thing and just vlogged from there, and it worked. But as I started wanting more of like making the lighting better and the microphone, I just had no space. So every time I filmed a video in my Chiswick flat, it involved me like setting up lighting and microphone and a sound blanket, and then after filming, taking it all down. And it took about an hour and a half just to set up for my shot each and every time, and then put it away and then back. So this time, I can actually just have this set and ready. So if I have an idea, I can just, well, script the video and then come over here and film it. Unless it's a video like this one, which requires like, what, 11, 12 different shots, each needing the lighting in the right spot, and well, that's why most of this video is on this microphone as opposed to this really nice one. But big standout videos from 2022 were my videos about online dating, TV licensing, comparing prices of groceries in the US and the UK, and a big one I did was a video on basic workers' rights in the US and the UK. Obviously, if that type of video was uploaded 4 years ago, I would have had a friend sitting on my bed with me trying to chat, but now I did both sides. I spent a lot more time researching and making sure I could present the situation in an engaging and interesting and informative way, and I'm pretty happy with how all the videos in 2022 came out. I think another big issue here is that when I started, I'd gotten so many friends from YouTube. So many of my friends made YouTube videos. We lived together, we hung out at parties, and as we all became adults, I actually was like one of the only people still making YouTube videos left. So many people that used to make videos don't anymore. And so it wasn't as easy for me to be like, hey, come on and let's, chat about something on my bed. Instead, it's like, oh no, I don't do that anymore. So I stand alone. Also, this was the year that I finally started putting more time into titles and thumbnails. Whereas in olden days, I could make a video and just use a standard title and thumbnail, it wouldn't really matter. And most of my audience would be really interested because they're like, I trust Evan has spent time making this a good video that I will walk away from going, sweet, great vid. But now there's so many more YouTubers out there. And so you as a viewer, you're spoiled for choice. You could watch this Evan video, but oh, there's this really interesting titled video from another creator I like. I'll watch that. And so algorithmically, we've all been trained to only really watch the ones with the most fascinating, gripping titles and thumbnails. And as much as I try to delay the effort of actually doing that, because I don't enjoy that aspect of YouTubing, I kind of had to. YouTube Creator Studio is a part of YouTube that you as a viewer might not ever experience, but it's a separate page that we have as people who upload on the platform to see how we're doing in a really quick overview type way. One of the aspects of that, which I kind of dislike, but also it's very important, is this little ranking system. After you upload a video, it tells you how the video is performing compared to your recent 10. It's rated out of 10. A 1 out of 10 gives you fireworks. Wow, your audience really liked this one. And in fact, it's doing better than every other video you've uploaded in the last 10 videos. Or you get a 10 out of 10, or anything in between, but 10 out of 10 means it's actually horrible. Nobody wants to watch it. Out of your recent 10, this is the worst. Maybe try changing it up or change that title and thumbnail. So I come up with this perfect video idea. It uses the fact that I've got a math degree to look more deep into the data about my online dating history. I'd swiped hundreds of thousands of times over the years through multiple apps, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, and I was like, this is gonna be really interesting to show like all this data to my viewers. It'll be fascinating. And so it was. Except as soon as I uploaded the video, I got a little alert from YouTube saying, that's a 10 out of 10. As in, that is a really bad vid. Your audience do not care about it. And of the last 10 videos, this one is the worst. And so I'm distraught. I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore. I really thought this video would be a hit. This is one of the best vids I've made recently. I don't get it. So I complain about it on Instagram stories. And sure enough, Mr. Tom Scott reaches out saying, oh, that's a shame. I liked that video. How about you try this title instead? And I was like, okay, so I changed the title, and then within one day, the video goes from being a 10 out of 10 to a 1 out of 10, being one of the best performing videos I've uploaded in 2022, which really opened my eyes in frustration that I have to take this seriously. The fact that Tom can just send me a message like, try this one out, like he's like, I don't know, flipping a penny at me, like, here you go, take this one. And it was the best performing thing. I get comments about how good the title is, and I'm like, it's not even my title. Really opened my eyes. I had to spend more time coming up with these titles and thumbnails, even if I didn't like it. And so thanks, Tom. Being on YouTube this long requires adapting. It involves pivoting. It involves surviving. And you can't just stay stuck in your ways and go, oh, but in the old days, people would like this. It's not the old days anymore. And so you really got to change it up. And that's what I had to do. Otherwise, pretty slow year. Yet again, the male audience increasing, the younger audience decreasing. And now we're going to finish it up with the final year, 2023 into now. I'll take you to this part of the studio. Thanks, me. 2023 was the year I fully leaned into the fact that my channel doesn't need to have one focus. I made banger videos about Duolingo, about food laws that interested me, a series on words. I also made 2 of the highest quality videos I've ever made of all time. And one was a flat tour where I shot slow-mo, flat, graded everything in my flat as best as possible. I also shot all around London in my 10 mistakes that tourists make in London. I'd love to make more videos like that, as God, the feeling of releasing that month or 2 long process of creating that video into the world, it feels phenomenal. But if you're ever wondering why I have like a crazy high quality video like that, and then the next one's just chill, little Reddit video, I'm sitting in this one spot, it's because I'm still just one person, and that is so much work to do that rather than get burnt out from desperately trying to force every bit of time I can into making those videos every week, I schedule them. So I have like one video like that every 2 months that I can really put a lot of time into, that I work on while I'm working on standard things and weekly videos to keep up this weekly schedule. I also started making more videos on news topics that interested me, and I added that to the big smorgasbord that is my YouTube channel. And more recently, my audience seems interested in housing development, which is really convenient because that's also just what I'm interested in at the moment, just how the UK is doing really badly with that, and just doing deep dives. I have a really big one planned for the next couple weeks, which I've spent a long time on, so hopefully I'll see you for that one. But after 10 years of making weekly videos, the demographic of my audience are pretty much completely different to when I started. We're now at 65% male and 35% female, which is a near flip of what it used to be. Very few younger demographics are still left, whereas I have a much more balanced, almost bell curve viewership with people around my age watching my content, which makes sense as I'm making videos kind of for myself. Now, of all the videos I uploaded in 2023, the video that had the most fascinating statistics, which had a viewership unlike anything I've ever uploaded, was the video I made with my mom. The demographics of viewers on that video had a near perfect flip of what my audience was in 2014. Like, look at the demographic, it's fascinating. The majority of my audience on that video were over 65, and then the second biggest demographic was just under that, and then it just slopes the opposite of how it was in 2014. I just find that utterly fascinating. The fact that no matter what type of content I'm making things that certain groups of people can enjoy. Sure, not every one of my videos might be enjoyed by you or by anyone of a certain demographic, but at the end of the day, I'm making videos that I enjoy. So hopefully one of those videos that I'm making might tickle your fancy at some point, and then you give it a watch and you're like, sweet. And that's okay. I think that is really a testament to how I've lasted so long, is that I've never really been targeting this age range, this gender, this country. I've just been making things that I want to make, and so that will change over time, just as my audience has changed over time. But now I think it's time we wrap this one up. I really, really appreciate you spending so much time going down through this deep dive as I wax nostalgic over my last 10 years. But yeah, let's take it to the living room. And that leads us to today, 523 Sundays from March 30th, 2014. No matter what was going on in my life, I always managed to upload a video every Sunday without fail. Some weeks were incredibly difficult with what was going on. Others, it was as easy as breathing. I've come up against burnout quite a few times in the past couple years, and part of me was looking forward to this day as the day that I could stop. Not stop entirely, but stop this arbitrary rule that I must upload every single Sunday. That would allow me more time to work on the bigger videos that people seem to really appreciate, but the truth is, despite its ups and downs, I do still really like doing this, and the one video a week rule really forces me to stop being a perfectionist on everything and make less content in the end. So I'll probably keep it up, at least for the time being. I know there have been a lot of cuts in this video. I was actually saving the biggest for last, so bear with me a second. I'll be right back. Hi, nice to see you again. Here's to the next few years. Thanks as always for subscribing to my channel and supporting me. It's been a really long while. So one, I'll be doing a Q&A next week, so shoot me your hottest questions, and maybe I'll make some puns out of it like the old school vids. And two, I vlogged my entire haircut up on my second channel. Next week or probably the week after, because I'm a bit backlogged there. I've got a vlog from Porto and then a vlog from the photography show that I'm going to be putting up there, so stay tuned for that. And three, I've made a little playlist of all of the most iconic Evan Edinger videos from 2014 to now. Only 2 videos per year making the cut. So if you'd like to travel back through time with me, you can go watch that. Otherwise, as always, I'll see you next Sunday. Goodbye.
Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a happy 4th of July.